Hi, Jean. Um, I was reading something this morning which rather perturbed me, and I just wanted your take on it, some help over understanding it. And it was this, that a certain Cardinal Mario Gretsch has said that Christianity, understood as a system or a way of life, doesn't exist anymore, that the church now wants to find new ways. And I'm very puzzled as to what this could mean. And as I said, rather worried, because of course the faith is the center of one's life. And to have the ground taken out from under your feet is a bit shocking. So
Yeah.
your help, please.
Yeah. Just to clarify, this quote is from Cardinal Mario Gretsch, General Secretary of the Synod that started last Sunday, 9th October. Well, thank you, Francesca. Of course, the statement looks radical, but it has to be understood, I think, a little bit in the mind of the person who says it. He said as a system of life. He didn't say Christianity per se is finished. And I guess also it's more of a Western statement, Western church statement, like Western Europe and maybe also the United States perspective, because he clearly says that the church wants to find new ways. He doesn't say it's gone. He says it's about finding new ways. Christianity as a style of life, translation into English, the Italian is rather system of life, which means the way, style of life, you say it in English, but it's the original is a system. I don't want to defend his point of view. I would prefer rather to go for a diagnose of the church. I guess the desire of the Synod is to, as he says, find new ways, or for the church to renew itself and continue its mission on earth. What is the diagnosis? I'm speaking essentially for the Western side of Europe. Christianity, as we know it till now, was very strong. The church was present very much in society, which is not anymore the case. If I talk about Italy, if I talk about France or Spain, the church became a minority. You can't even hear the church, also because of all the scandals that occurred in the past, and the discovery of the scandals. This also weakens a lot the church. Definitely, if I look at France, for instance, who was a very important country for the church, the situation changed completely. Recently, we had a poll saying that 51% of French people don't believe in God. We are not saying they don't go to church. We are saying they don't believe in God. So so this is the situation, for instance, in a country like France. What could be the diagnosis? The Synod is trying to do something. Pope wants the faithful to contribute to the Synod. He doesn't want it just to be only the bishops and the leaders to decide. Fair enough. I mean, he's the Pope. He knows what is best. He certainly is inspired. Personally, my diagnosis is the following. The way we understood Christianity, the way we understood the world as Catholics, the way we lived our faith in the Western part of Europe is certainly to a great extent gone. We continued to live on the fruits of our civilization for a few decades. But now, since we don't have anymore the driving force behind it, the fruits, you consume them, you eat them, and then there is nothing after that. It's emptiness. When I think about what we will leave to our children, to our grandchildren, I find it extremely preoccupying. Now, why are we in this situation? The culture today, if we can call it culture, because I don't call it culture, it's very fragmented, very impoverished way of life today, which is after having eaten the fruits of our civilization for a few decades, enjoying them. Now we are without any driving force. So we don't have a specific direction. So we are in a very fragmented world in the hands of who is the stronger and who wants to lead. And I'm talking about the daily life, the world. So it could be anything. So Christianity is not it's not shaping, if you want, our understanding of the human being, of the world, and of God. My point is why Christianity reached that point, and what were we supposed to do, and what could we still continue to do. There is a sort of a defeatism in the statement of Cardinal Grech when he says it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, but what is the analysis and what are the reasons? It could have continued, but it didn't continue. Why it didn't continue? That's for me the question. Before saying it's not there, let us find a new way, we need to say why we reached that point. Are there errors? And is it a good thing not to have Christianity as an understanding of life and faith and so forth? Christianity shaped our civilization, our laws, our democracy, our relationships, our understanding of life. This has been shaped for, I don't know, say 15 centuries at least in the West. So if you say that, okay, fine, this is gone, it's fine, you can't say that. It's extremely dangerous because there are scientific implications, there are philosophical implications, and anthropological implications, there are theological implications when you say that. It's like you drop all the roots, you unroot completely the tree and say, okay, fine, let us plant the tree somewhere else. Of course, I don't know the thought of the cardinal. I'm not talking about a person, I'm talking just about a sentence extracted from a long explanation. And I have to confess, I haven't read the rest, which is a bit unfair from my side. I should have done that. But it's a fact. It's a fact that we witness every day. Christianity is not shaping anymore our way of life. Nobody can fault that. But why do we accept it? This is for me the struggle. A few years ago, it was the trend, I'm talking for instance in France, to say, okay, the church now shrank completely and we have just few pockets of Christianity. The Pope meeting the French bishops recently did say something along these lines, and he's aware of what is happening, on top of the abuse stories, scandals, etc. And the trend was to say, okay, now the church is small, and almost rejoicing about it, writing books and publishing them about the small rest of Israel, like going back to the Old Testament, saying, well, that's a pattern of history. It's like you admit the fact that becoming so small is fine. Instead of having a diagnosis of the problem that made us reach its actual state, you say, okay, that's fantastic. We are the small rest of the past of the church. We are very small now, and that's fine. When you look at France in 70 years back, that was another world. We had another world. We were living in another world. And now you say that it's fine to be that small. And what happened in between, no analysis, no diagnosis. For me, that's the thing. So my perspective is rather of trying to have a deeper diagnosis, understanding what happened and understanding our times also. And therefore, you can now, as Cardinal Grech said, we can find new ways, but they are not new ways by saying, forget about the past now, let us turn the page and find new ways completely out of the blue. There are no new ways out of the blue. You have to have roots, you have to understand what happened, and you have to find the connection and the link, because the church is a transmission of faith. If the transmission is not realized properly, then yes, we become not only a rest, but we can disappear. If you look at history, there are areas, yes, of course, and I'm not playing a prophet here, I'm just being honest and following history. The north of Africa was Christian, yes or no? Turkey was Christian, yes or no? This is where St. Paul preached the gospel. And now it's not Christian anymore. So the guarantee of the longevity or persistence of the church in time, as we claim it sometimes, that the church will stay. I built my church on this rock, and this rock, the forces of evil will not prevail on the church, etc. This promise is for the universal church, not for the local churches. Local churches disappeared, completely disappeared from the map. There is no Christianity in many countries that were totally and utterly Christian before. So we don't have promises of longevity where we are in the West. Analyzing and saying we are the rest and remnant of Israel, like the Old Testament, this is fine and let us deal with it. For me, it's defeatist. It's like saying, okay, we failed, but I think it's good. How can you say we failed and then it's good? Try to analyze why and where did you fail, and then try to understand why faith is so weak, why we are not seen as a force of good and a source of light for society as we were before. You see, that's the point. And I'm not trying to go back in history and saying, let us replicate what happened before and do the same. What I'm trying to say is, let us analyze and understand what's happened. Now, to get to the bottom of it, I would say the following. The cultural, mental structure of 1 or 2 generations back and the actual one of our children and grandchildren have nothing to do with each other. My statement, I understand, is radical, but today we don't have any culture. Today we deal with just screens and we skim. We can't read a text properly. We can't inherit the richness of the past because the gap between our actual style of life and the previous one is an abyss today. So how do you want us today to understand the past? It's not about the church only. It's not about Christianity only. It's about all the past. That we have an abyss between who we are today, how we want to live, and the past. If you listen to the majority of the people who have a loud voice and talk everywhere, are we building bridges to understand the past? We have no interest in the past. We have no wisdom in looking at the past and understanding the richness of the past. This applies enormously in Christianity, faith, theology. We think that we have a healthy approach in theology today. I don't buy that. We are still searching, while normally we are supposed to be seeing. We don't see. We are still walking inside of a dark room. So the danger, in my eyes, is that the 20 centuries of richness that we accumulated cannot be transmitted today to a young man because he doesn't have any capacity to receive it. He has no intellectual formation, no society, no indications, nothing, no values to stick to in order to receive the richness of 20 centuries. So this cut in transmission is, for me, the biggest danger. We passed it already. We passed the abyss, and we are looking back just few decades. So that's, for me, the issue. Theology became too abstract, detached from spiritual life. We're trying to go back a little bit now. Pope Benedict pushed a little bit in this direction. He's right, of course, but we need to multiply his effort by 100. What Pope Benedict did in this reconnecting with spiritual life should be multiplied by 100 in order to find again the reality of our faith. Our faith is not an intellectual construction. Our faith is meeting the risen Lord, being saved by the risen Lord, and understanding that we have a journey in front of us to grow and so forth. So theology is totally detached from that. I don't know what theology is doing. Theology is an ill body in my eyes today. Now, this is what I would say. I would say the greatest danger is a cultural danger, where the culture in which we lived our Christianity just 1 or 2 generations before us was a culture. And today we are in front of no culture. We have a fragmented world, and pick and choose here and there what suits you, what you like, but we don't have a vision, a complete vision of God, of the world, of society, of the human being, the meaning of life, etc. It's all fragmented, and we are at the mercy of whoever is playing with us, moving us like
pieces on the chessboard.
Yeah, we lost the complete understanding. So when you say that Christianity is not anymore a style of life, you have to analyze that and say, why is this occurring? It's because we don't see the goodness of this. What, was Christianity a bad thing? Christianity made us. So can we value it? Maybe yes, but do we understand the origin of it? The origin of it is not a system of life. The origin of it is Jesus, who transmitted a life. And are we receiving this life? Do we have an experience of Jesus, of the risen Lord, and so forth? So it's like we have the shell and we emptied the shell, and then the shell is gone. Before we had the inner part of the shell itself, then the inner part started to go, which is spiritual life, meeting Jesus and being alive and not just following rules. So you remove that, then you have a shell. The shell will continue for some time, and then the shell will break. And this is what we're going through today. This is why they say the shell is gone. But the problem is not the shell. The problem is what was inside of the shell and what made the shell, what shaped Christianity, what shaped society. So by saying the shell is gone, let us find other shells, you take for granted that what was inside of the shell is still understood and engineered. Well, it's not. In my humble view, it's not.